Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Edmund Ironside and we get to hear from Edricus today in Act 2, Scene 2, which, oh my goodness, we just finished Act 1, Scene 3 yesterday, so we got to do a little bit of catching up. So basically, Canutus thinks that he should be king. He's a Danish guy and not necessarily of the best ethics and morals. And then we've got Edmund Ironside, who the English have named their king since his father died, and he actually is much nicer to people. Turkillus and Leofric have deserted Canutus's forces and gone to Edmund, who welcomed them with open arms. And we know that Edricus is willing to play either side. He believes in being sly and cunning and conniving and using all of the wiles at his disposal to just get onto whatever's going to be the winning side. But at the moment, he's with Canutus and likes Canutus a little bit better because Canutus doesn't know that he was not born rich, whereas Edmund Ironside knows Canutus's whole backstory, that he was born to a poor family and had to work up through the ranks and all that. So he doesn't like that seeing Edmund reminds him of all of that. So anyway, Act 2, Scene 1. We're at the Earl of Southampton's home, where if you remember in Act 1, Scene 1, he was like, y'all are coming over to dinner, right? And Canutus is like, we'll be right there. So we're there, and we're there for dinner, and Canutus is like, oh, your home is so lovely. Is your daughter going to be joining us? And the Earl of Southampton is like, she'll come out a little later. And Canutus is like, she should come and sit right by me. And the Earl of Southampton is like, she's a little young for that to like sit in a queen's seat. She's maybe a little young. And Canutus is like, well, I'm gonna feel like a very unwelcome guest in your home unless your daughter comes out. So Southampton calls out his daughter, Aegina, and she sits down next to Canutus, who says some mildly inappropriate things and asks her some questions, and she responds in such a way that it sounds like she's on Canutus's side and doesn't approve of Edmund Ironside. So Canutus is like, oh, what a smart girl. You know what? You'd make a great queen. What do you think? Do you want to marry me? And she's like, I don't really have an opportunity to say no to that. So he says, Southampton, do you approve of this match? And he's like, I guess so, if my daughter's okay with it. And they turn back to her one more time and she says, a woman's silence is consent, which no, it's not. But I guess 1587 was a different time and that's how they thought about things. But anyway, the Archbishop of Canterbury agrees that he will marry them. And Canutus is like, let's get married tonight so I can go fight a war tomorrow. And that's Act 2, Scene 1. And poor Aegina. But anyway, we don't know exactly how young she is. So anyway, we have plenty of icky feelings around Canutus already. So this shouldn't be that surprising. Act 2, Scene 2, we see Edric, not Edricus. We see Edric, Edric's wife, and Stitch. Stitch is the son of Edric and Edric's wife, and Edric's wife is actually the mother of Edricus. And they have come to Southampton to try to find Canutus and to try to find Edricus so that Stitch can go into service for Edricus. So they've come and they're like, we're looking for our son, isn't this great? And then Edricus finally enters and he's like, who are you? And they're like, I'm your dad. And he's like, I don't know who you are, you crazy fool. And it unleashes this string of horrible names, which then Edric's wife has a little aside where she's like, you know what, I taught him all those terrible names and it's kind of amazing that he remembers them. But incidentally, that's not his dad. His dad was a soldier who died in the wars. I'm just going to let Edric think that, yeah, that was his dad. And then they're like, do you know who I am? Edric's wife is like, do you know who I am? And he's like, no, I don't know who you are. I don't know who you are. But they're like, this is our son Stitch, and we would like him to serve you. We would like him to work with and serve you. So Edricus says to Stitch, he's like, what can you do? And Stitch is like, I can do anything. I can clean. I can, put your saddle on your horse, whatever it is that you need done, I can do it. And Edricus is like, well, can you clean shoes? And Stitch is like, yeah, I can, and like dives for Edricus's shoes, and Edricus says, stay, not so hasty. We that by sly devices mean to mount and creep into opinion by deceit must not, of all things, have a scholar know our practices. We must suppress good wits and keep them under. We must favor fools and with promotions win their shallow pates. A ready wit would quickly wind us out and pry into our secret treacheries and wade as deep in policy as we. But such loose-brained, windy-headed slaves, such blockheads, dolts, fools, dunces, idiots, such logger-headed rogues are best for us, for we may work their wills to what we will and win their hearts with gold to anything. Come hither, Stitch. This villain and queen that brought thee hither claim an interest in my nobility, when, as God knows, my noble father died long since in wars, being Duke of Mercia then, as I am now. Therefore, but first to cut off long delays, I entertain thee for my chamberlain, and as thou shalt prove secret, trusty, true, I will reward thee with some higher place. But first, to try thee, fetch the constable. Yet stay a while. They would suspect the truth. I'll have thee, when thou seest me gone away, beat these two beggars hence, and teach them how they shall hereafter choose a meaner son. Wilt thou be trusty? Wilt thou cudgel them? So the first half of this is an aside to the audience, and then he switches his attention to Stitch. But first of all, he's like, hang on, don't start cleaning my shoes yet. And then he takes an aside to the audience where he's like, you know, those of us that have rather underhanded tactics for climbing the social ladder and climbing the political ladder need to keep stupid people around us, because if we have smart people around us, they're going to see through our ruses and our lies and all that. But these idiots who have no idea what's going on, we can just buy them with gold, and that works out perfectly for us. So then he turns to Stitch, who has sort of shown himself to be a little bit idiotic so far, and he's like, Stitch, come here. You know, these two idiots, they think that they're my parents, but they're not. And then he's like, hang on a second. Okay, yes, I'm going to take you into my service. Go get, no, wait, I have a better idea. He's like, as soon as I'm gone, because he doesn't want to get the Chamberlain involved, because he doesn't want anybody else that's in the town to have an idea of what he's up to. So he's like, we'll just settle this sort of amongst ourselves. He's like, as soon as I'm gone, you need to beat the two of them and beat them right out of town so that they stop pretending to be my parents. And he ends with, will you do it? Will you beat the ever-loving daylights out of them? And Stitch is like, yeah, I will. Cool. So Edricus and his train leave, and Stitch turns to his parents and starts beating them like about the head and neck with a stick or whatever. He just starts beating up on them and eventually beats them off of the stage, and that's the end of the scene, with Edric's wife just screaming like, stop hitting us, as they exit, and he's beating his parents. So we've got the Canutuses and the Danish side of things, and Edricus being the super villain. There's some really distasteful stuff still happening here. And then we've got Edmund Ironside, which I'm pretty sure we'll see some questionable things from him a little bit later, because otherwise it feels a little unbalanced. But I mean, Edmund is the title character of the play, so of course he's going to be painted in a better light. But anyway, yeah, fun stuff from Canute's side. He likes to play fair, and Edricus, he's a stand-up guy, huh? Yeah, anyway, I'll see you tomorrow for more. Mwah.